And it's not just me by myself. I've got some amazing representatives from the Smite 2 design team. I've got AJ and Pawn with me today to help break everything down. How y'all doing?
Hello, happy to be here.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
I am super excited. I can't wait for players to hop into Alpha Weekend 3. We got a pretty big update for tomorrow for people to hop into, which is super exciting. And in case you missed it, earlier this week, we actually announced that our 24/7 closed alpha is going to be going in starting on August 27th. We're super excited about this next milestone.
No AMA hoodie.
You may have noticed
new
that's
game,
a little bit
new
after
Ajax.
the initially planned release date that was communicated on some of the store platforms. That was towards the late July, but we're just going to take some extra time to cook. We've got a lot of feedback from the community, lots of things that we're going to be addressing, not only in this Alpha Weekend 3 that's going to be coming out tomorrow, but over the course of the next couple months. We've got a lot of stuff planned, guys. Like, I'm going through the list. There's a huge blog on smite2.com, and it goes over things like game feel and conquest pacing and controller and console feel and improvements to the active item systems and a whole lot more. And like, I'm just super excited for us to take the extra time to address a lot of those big points of community feedback for players to hop into before we hit 24/7.
Yeah, the player feedback's been huge. Really been trying to take our time going through all of that and making sure we're covering as much as we can, being really detailed in our addressing it, responding to it, and prioritizing it. So that big blog post delivered by Alex Kilgoon. Yep. Shout outs to him for all the work he did on that. Pawn and I did a lot of the writing behind the scenes to help out with answering those questions and planning things out and just sharing as much as we can about the process. But we've done a lot on the project so far. We're really proud of where we come, but we've got a lot left to do too.
Absolutely. And I know I can't wait for the community to see all the hard work that we've been putting in.
It will be very
if you haven't
interesting
already, be sure to
see
head
how
over
much
to
work
smite2.com
they can
to
get
check
done
out that
in the
blog
next
post from
60
Kilgoon.
days.
It's got a lot of details on our plans on what we're going to be
Now that the
addressing
clock
over the
is
next couple
ticking,
months before we hit 24/7.
It'll be very
There's going to be a
interesting.
lot of stuff that's in that blog post that we detailed that's going to be coming in Alpha Weekend 3. So we should probably hop into what people can expect when they hop in tomorrow, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into some of the new features that we've been seeing the community feedback come into, and some of the stuff that's going to be coming in Alpha Weekend 3 tomorrow. First one, the T-screen. Our first iteration coming in for Alpha Weekend 3.
I like how we still call it that. We probably should have a more official name.
T-screen is the
I've tried
best
to call
name.
it top stats or
Nope.
Also, we've been
T-screen's all
referring
you
to
need.
it as the combat log, because that's effectively what it is as well. But we have the Smite 1 nicknames that are following us through Smite 2, which is a lot of fun. But this is a really important screen. Previously in Smite 2, there was no way to really get like a damage recap, no death recap, nothing like that. There was no system text, anything like that. So we really wanted to prioritize this. We saw a lot of players asking for it. We felt the same way. So now you can use the T-screen as a way like this. The T-screen kind of has a lot of overlap with all those other features. So that's why I prioritized this one first. So there's no death recap screen yet, but if you die, you can use the T-screen to see what hit you in order and from what sources, and there's icons and damage numbers and stuff like that, so you can see where you were taking the damage from, where it was coming from, and then you can also see the top performers on the team at a quick glance, which just feels
press
really
T for good players,
Press T for good players.
That's the thing that you have to remember.
So definitely a very highly requested feature. Really glad the UI team got kicked into gear and got it done for this patch.
Absolutely. All right, the next one, and I kind of want to see if we can hop in game for this one. We've got some HUD options available in Alpha Weekend 3. So tomorrow, whenever you hop into Smite 2, you'll be able to go into your settings and choose from a couple of different preset HUD options. We've got the Legacy HUD, which is the default. That's kind of intended to emulate the Smite 1 experience. But then we've also got the new Novus HUD, which is a little bit more different experience than what you're used to. But what it tries to do is it tries to center everything that's important to you, putting those active items towards the center of the screen so you can help track them.
That's right.
So I'm in game right now, so if you want to see what that looks like, just so we can talk between the options. Spoilers for what's to come, but you can see here's the Legacy HUD, and then just going to Settings, going to UI, and changing the HUD layout to Novus. Maybe it's not working.
Maybe
you are
not.
in a different build.
Yeah,
we're not in the actual Alpha 3
this
build, as we
pod
talked about
loading
before.
into the wrong
build
build.
is closer to AWE 4, right?
Makes sense.
So
Classic.
pawn loading
Yeah.
into
So
the wrong
Unfortunate.
build.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. We're doing
People
it
have
live.
seen the Novus HUD. We've
Yeah.
tested it in some of the closed testing before, so a lot
Shame.
of the closed testers have been with us before are used to it. This is kind of a stopgap as we continue to polish up the HUD editor.
Yeah.
The whole HUD editor will be coming to all platforms in the future, but there's
Classic
so much player
Smite
control in
2.
there. There's a lot of
And
break
here's it
cases
gonna
where people
work,
can get
and
stuck
it doesn't
or,
work.
You know, elements can get
Classic.
lost, individual HUD elements. So as we're still working,
We're
on
doing it
we wanted to
live!
give people this opportunity to switch between these two HUDs, and we've seen like very intense
New
feedback
Smite,
and very
same
split
Iris.
feedback.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of people who like the current HUD and never want to see a change for any reason.
Right.
And then there's a lot of people like, I really wish I could see my active items better. And then so like when we were trying to figure out which one of these HUDs to really default to everybody,
Right.
it was so split. So for now, we're
give
going to let
people
people
the option.
try both.
Yeah. That's a good plan. And we'll get a screenshot of the Novus HUD posted on social
Yep.
media later today. That way everybody can check it out before we go live tomorrow. And just last thing is in terms
Don't
of
press
new
T either.
features-
Make sure
Yeah,
that
don't
works.
press T. You don't know
With
what's
our
going to
curse
happen.
in the different build, we've already broken or changed something.
All right, so we've got a couple other general things headed to Alpha Weekend 3 tomorrow. We've got the undo button added to the item shop, another big community requested feature, helping
Good
you
quality of
correct
life
those
with the
builds if you
undo
accidentally
button, assuming
misclick
it
whenever
works.
you're building. We're doing another pass on damage numbers. That was another big thing that we addressed in Alpha Weekend 2, but we're continuing to look at damage
sure.
numbers just for overall clarity and visuals on the screen in terms of combat. Do another pass there. And then last but not least, we've made some slight changes to the interaction UI, just to have a technical and kind of visual overhaul whenever you're interacting with things on the map.
Yeah, so a couple of things to add here. The item shop has the undo button, but it also has a couple other like fixes, flow changes, layout changes that we didn't go into full detail on.
Okay.
But one that is probably
fine.
worth shouting out is that inside the role filters now. So if you open up your item store, you pick. I'm playing Athena
Some of
as
the
jungle,
quality
you
of
pick
life
the jungle
stuff of
build.
Smite that you don't think about
It'll
all
show
the
you all
time,
the items
starting
that
to
are
work its way
potential
into
pull
Smite
for your
2.
jungle build, but it'll also
which is good.
separate them out and label them by their like primary stats. So you'll have
Nice.
strength and a few items, and lifesteal and a few items, and cooldown and a few items, all at a glance. So you don't have to use the filters or anything like that. So it definitely for console, this brings back some of the parity they're used to with the old console store, of just getting those really clear, smaller subcategories of items at a glance. And then you can, we've also added the consumables and actives and everything to those role filters. So you can stay in there the whole game.
Yeah.
So if you're playing any god in any role and you're a little overwhelmed by all the store options and or the new systems and things like that, use your role filter for the role you're playing, and it'll automatically give you a list and give you some of those categories. You can just shop entirely from there.
You love it. It's your
You can
one-stop
upgrade your
shop.
ward. You can buy your 3Ks. Everything just from
They're
staying in
spending
there.
a lot of time trying to get like console
The damage
store
numbers
UI
thing,
right.
like we're gonna be. That's one thing that we're kind of recurringly touching.
Yep.
And then a similar like accolades and other pop-ups and things like that. The interaction kind of fits into that as well. So the interact one, like that's when you go capture the warhorn. That type of menu was reworked a lot in mostly a technical way in the background, but there is some new UI elements, some better clarity, some better animation, better feedback. So yeah, hopefully people can see those improvements when they play the game.
Absolutely. Hop in and leave us your feedback once you experience all that stuff. Let's hop into items now, shall we, gentlemen?
Balance time?
Yeah, balance
let's
time.
go.
Let's start off with the simple one. Let's talk about potions. Potions really strong in
Yeah,
the first
they
couple
are.
iterations of the Smite 2 Alpha.
They're getting
A little
nerfed.
bit of a shift/nerf here for both the health
nerf.
potion and the mana potion.
Yeah, it is a nerf. Yeah, in general, we like that the potions are actually a lot more aggressive, a lot more useful in terms of like in combat they can heal you up quite quickly, and they can actually shift, especially early fights. But they were just a little too potent at doing that. You could have a fight just completely shift on you 180 with very little time to react because of just how quick they were. So we're just taking it down a hair.
Health
So from
potions
7
were
seconds to
legit
10 seconds,
busted.
slows it down a little bit, gives
Legit
you more time to
busted.
potentially burst through it if you're right
It was
about to
kinda
kill them.
wild.
You're not going to get to the point where they're going to just be completely out healing the damage that you're trying to do. We're just trying to find that fine line between keeping them very useful in the early game, but not making them overbearing to where they really just shift fights more than they should.
It was we got into a big debate over this one, didn't
per
we?
tick,
About
8
like
ticks every 8
should
seconds,
we
a
go
20,
back to
10
the more
tick.
classic,
Okay.
which are really slow.
Like 25 seconds.
And
I think.
that's like a common MOBA just design that generally they find themselves at over time. So you really just like a regen potion.
Yeah.
And makes it very bad in combat. But we kind of like that it's a little bit more active and a little bit more impactful. So we're like, we didn't want to go all the way to that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll monitor.
Pop those
we'll keep
potions
tabs
still,
on
though.
things
They'll still
and
be
definitely
good.
listening
We
to
think the
feedback.
Those
active
first
ones feel
5
really
levels
fun,
in
so.
particular. So
All right. Speaking of actives,
Pop your
the
potions.
next one's a big one for
here we go.
Alpha Weekend 3. So we've got some pretty big changes to the utility / defensive item slot in Smite 2. So the past couple Alpha Weekends, every player had access to purification beads from the start of the game, but we're making some pretty big shifts here. So AJ, you want to kind of take us away here and kind of explain what we're doing?
Sure. So for this update, everyone is now going to actually start with combat blink.
Yeah.
So, like, as you can see here, there's a couple different. The blink and beads are all kind of tied together as one big design change on the patch notes. You'll see that, but blink rune is now the
they
default
removed
utility item
amulet
that
from
all
the game
players start
too.
with.
So no double blinking.
There's the text of what it works. That it's essentially converted from Smite 1 distance blink, and it has full unrestricted blink usage.
Yeah.
So. You can use it no damage taken or dealt restrictions and no ability restrictions. You can just blink anytime you want.
Which means you can blink with Ymir
the tier
ult
3
again in
blinking
combat
amulet
stuff.
is removed from the game. We didn't want
if it's full in
people
combat
doing
blink.
double blink yet, but that's not something we're strictly against because we are going to be able to have ability to double cleanse, things like that,
Right.
beads and other active items. So potentially that could come back in some capacity. But for now, we really wanted to focus on what happens when everyone is combat blinking.
Yep.
All over the place. So we know a lot of people were asking for this. A lot of people are excited to try this. It's planned to be very exciting. It's very intense, this type of gameplay, everyone blinking around. It adds a lot of dynamic options to specific outplay situations, 1v1s, team initiations, etc. But it gives every kit in the game a powerful, similar mobility tool that can really kind of change kit dynamics of characters and team comps. So it's got a lot of interesting
As long as you've got the ability to have blink or beads, I think it's fine.
Going to be exciting and worth a try.
If everybody has
So we're
blink
gonna make
and
that the
there's
default.
no beads
But that's not all.
option, then that doesn't work.
What's the next one?
Because so there's a couple cascading changes. That's where I usually sit over there so I can look at Pon, but now I'm here. It's like I like to just have this conversation with Pon while I'm on the show and just y'all are along for the ride. But there's some cascading changes that go along with this. So our first concern was like, we really gave everyone beads for very specific reasons.
Yeah,
because everybody
CC's
wanted them.
broken.
Everybody
Yeah.
needs them. A lot of people were struggling with getting CC'd, getting out of position, getting punished, and getting killed. So people want beads. So
Yep. So
we're
they
still gonna
are
give you
doing
the
it. They
option.
are doing the switch.
So there's a little bit of a kind of temp.
That's actually
UI,
fine.
The way this
That's
works
actually
right
fine.
now, it's not really final, and we're going to be expanding on that. But you can still change your. So everyone's going to start with Blink, but you can change back.
I
to
don't
Beads.
like that
So
you can
Beads is
change it,
effectively
though,
a free
actually.
upgrade from Blink.
I think you
So
should
just
have to choose at level
double-click
1.
or buy or input.
So it
your
looks like
controller
you can
button
switch it
to
at any point in the
upgrade from
game.
Blink to
I think
Beads
you
at
should
any
have to
time.
commit
And
to
you
which
will
one you
switch your
pick at
Blink to
level
Beads.
1.
Right. If you can also switch
Switching back and
but
forth is too
because
much.
this is temp, there's a little bit of a complexity. You just have to sell your beads for 0 gold and then buy Blink again for 0 gold. And you can do this any number of times you want in any order you want anytime you're in base, and the cooldown will never reset, never change. They have different cooldowns, and whenever you activate the ability, it'll go on cooldown. It'll always so you will always be locked out. If you blink, 240-second cooldown, I believe, you will be locked out of using anything in this slot for that amount of time.
Yeah.
Even if you run it around with a blank slot for that time and you go buy it back when the cooldown's almost up just because you're swagging on people, it won't matter.
There we go.
It won't matter. But you can switch back to this at any time.
The
And
idea
we did
of
this
beads
mostly
and
because
Blink, interesting.
as fun as combat and powerful combat Blink is, we do feel like there's going to be a lot of people out there that
as
are
long
going
as
to,
beads is
after
an
a game or two,
option,
be like,
you know,
I really
because
wish I had
I just want my
Smite
beads.
needs beads because
Yeah, there's
crowd
certain characters
control
where like beads is
doesn't
a
work
really needed
in
counterplay,
Smite
and
at
so
that
depending
point.
on
Like
the matchup,
the
you
game
might
falls
feel
apart.
like you can go
you
combat
know,
Blink, and some matchups you actually still go purification beads.
But you can change your mind.
But-
You can go solo lane.
Switching
early
after
game,
is-
pick one, and then
I
when
don't
you
think
switch to
that'll
team
stay.
fight mode, get the other.
Right, yeah.
So we actually
don't think
like
that'll
the
stay.
dynamicness of that gameplay for this testing phase. So it's two really big testing things. Being able to dynamically swap, which was not something we ever really let people do in Smite 1, and the default to combat Blink and just having combat Blink in general. So really exciting thing to test that. I can't wait to see how people use it. Can't wait to see the highlight reels.
It's
right?
definitely going to be exciting, right? And Pawn, are we able to go in game and you can show off the process of switching from one
Let me
to
see,
the other?
because switch classing means that I lose that slot temporarily.
true.
So let me just double check to make sure I can show the flow.
All right, cool.
And if so, then yes. So it looks like I can. So yeah. So if you guys want to hop in game, we can show you how it works. So you can see here, I can go. Let's assume I start with Blink because again I started with nothing. I can just go, click Purification Beads, buy it, and I have that in my slot instead. And if I want to go back to Blink, we just sell it. Go to Blink, buy it. You can see our kind of hack with the builds into here, so you can see that this builds into that. But that's the flow.
funny.
If you want to change it, you just go buy beads. If you want to go
That's
back to
so
Blink,
funny.
you just sell beads, buy Blink. And that allows you to be flexible and just
It builds
change what you want to have in that
into
slot.
it. That's why they.
That's right.
These are just
That's a
first iteration
cheesy.
of the system.
That's a
Will be polished
cheesy
up
get
as we
around.
continue
That's
off the weekends
funny.
and updates.
Yeah, we're going to talk about at the end of this show. We'll talk about a little bit more about what's coming in future updates. So we'll talk about this a little bit more then.
All right.
Yep.
But yeah, big hype change. A lot of people asking for it, so I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah, especially with the
Yeah, I
tournament
mean,
that's going to
having Combat Blink on
Saturday. It'll be
Ymir,
interesting to see
super
what
exciting.
Competitive
you know?
Smite 2 looks like with everybody having
Not
Combat
having
Blink at level
beads
1.
on
Will
a
everybody
Zeus,
have
kind of a
Combat
nightmare.
Ooh,
You
We
know.
will go beads.
That's true.
We
never
will find
know.
out. All that and
Although
more.
there's an
On the next
argument to
episode
be
of Smite 2.
made. If it
All
is
right,
a
let's
genuine
move on
Combat
to,
Blink, there's an
talk
argument
about
to
some
be
other
made that
items. We've got a
Combat
couple
Blink is just
new/reward
greater side
items
Fury
in
beads.
Alpha Week 3
so
coming up.
We'll
the
see.
first one is an exciting one that Clumsy kind of teased in our
We'll see.
developer deep dive that went out on Monday. It's called Cersei's Hexone, and this is a really exciting active item that kind of brings a new
It's
effect
not,
that
if
we
it was
haven't really seen in
regular
Smite 2
Blink,
yet.
then beads
Yeah,
is
shout
probably
out to
better.
Clumsy for this
Combat Blink. Blink
So we
is
talked
usually
about
better.
the last patch about
know?
experimenting in some more like unique active items and movement items, and in the blog post we're talking about that too, and that's still something we're going to work on over time.
Health cooldown
But
movements.
this one is just the first in that
Oh, this is
series.
the one that turns you into
So
a boar.
This one actually polymorphs
yeah.
you into a Kurtanos boar and lets you charge forward, dash, and damage enemies and knocking them up. So just a really unique type of ability to have on an active item.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing we want to do more of. For sure in the future, and this one is a good prototype for how can we mix things up with the active item builds. How can we find things that have some different applications, different use cases at different times in combat.
Yeah.
Not so many stim items. Trying to over time cycle out some of those just simple stim items to more interesting actives like this. So this kind of taking the place of the blinking amulet for now, but depending on this usage and how this goes forward, we could see hopefully multiple items that all kind of occupy the same sort of unique space.
For sure, yeah. And Pawn, are we ready to go in game and show it off?
Let's see it.
I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, so one of Thanos' new abilities is he polymorphs himself and charges forward and knocks people up. Feels very thematic to him.
Yeah, very
So
thematic.
no,
with
obviously
Thanos.
this is the item.
Crazy.
And you can change direction while you're going. Has limited turn radius.
And you're CC immune while charging?
Yep.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, so you get a lot of mobility
I forgot
here.
to
You
mention
can
that,
you can
sorry.
block things. You can knock up. There's a lot of applications to this, and this is the kind of flexibility we want with our active items. Where
Artemis?
this
No,
is
no,
essentially
no.
an extra
Tusky?
movement tool that you
Yeah,
can bring
yeah,
into
yeah,
your build at
yeah.
any point. For characters who just need to be able to get away, it could be really good for that. Or if you're an engager and you want to engage onto your targets, you can use this to engage really easily. So lots of cool applications with this item, and just a fun theme. It's just really cool that we were able to kind of come up with an idea and prototype it, and the prototype of let's turn ourselves into a Kurnos boar.
So the just one thing to add about the theme is it's not just theme. It's not just for silly, although that's a lot of fun and a big part of it. But it's also about having clear transformation and clarity and a representation for what's happening. So one of the things we wanted to be careful about is like adding more blinks to the game. So we had combat blink now, so we took out blinking amulet, and one of the things we were concerned about was just people just appearing with one frame with no warning or any sort of notifications or what's going on. So now with the can you blink while a piggy?
Looks like the tween might break it, but we'll see. I'm not sure.
Blink at your own risk while in the middle of other abilities because there will be edge cases we find out. But yeah, the thing that this item does so well is it has clear telegraphing clarity and
What if
warnings
two
and
pigs hit each
phases,
other?
and then a really
Then
fun
everybody
theme
else gets bacon,
that
I think.
is displaying those phases to you. Where getting gods to dash without animation feels really weird and things like that. So this was just something that came together really well from a very technical design and thematic aspect, not just thematic.
Now, Pawn, question: does this stop on first got hit, or does it?
It's first got hit.
I want to
You can
see
see there
some
just a bit.
Thanatos skins in Smite too.
Well, that's Cersei's Hexstone. I'm super excited to see the play.
Although
with
his
this.
base model
Like you're
is
saying,
looking
it's
pretty
just a
dope.
Unique
Looking pretty
type
dope.
of item that adds a little bit extra spice. It gives you access to some mobility, some CC if you didn't have it in your kit. Just splash it into your build and transform into a board and see what happens.
That's right.
All right, next up, we got a little bit of a rework going here. So we're reworking Atalanta's bow and bringing back the return of a fan favorite item, Hast Fatalis, coming to Smite 2. A little bit different though in Smite 2 compared to its old iteration in Smite 1.
Just a little bit.
So
These are essentially directly in between Atalanta's bow and true Fatalis.
Yeah.
So Atalanta's bow took you like
Talus.
4 hits to get up to Fatalis speed or faster. We'll talk about that later. Haste and Fatalis, in a traditional sense, is just the first hit. We're going to compromise and give you 2 hits.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially also because this effect is a little bit temporary right now. We're still working through some issues with the actual amount of speed it gets you. So I believe as a melee character, when you get both stacks of this, you'll actually be moving faster when attacking than you will be when just running, which is a little strange. So the 2 stacks was pretty important to just making sure that you weren't zooming all the time, but you will be zooming. So this item has a little bit less stats than it was before, but if you want to really focus on that, you'll be zooming. Yeah. This is so the Cersei's was a demonstration of what we want to continue doing with active items and doing something new, doing something that's active at different times in different parts of combat, and something that's powerful and unique. And this Fatalis coming back is kind of a similar thought for passive items.
With how OP items are in
changes
Smite
the way
2,
your character plays, the way your character feels,
50% Fatalis doesn't seem OP to me.
This is something we also want to do more of.
Doesn't seem
so
OP.
Smite 1, we're working with this. We're working with the Smite 1 team and all together on the.
There's so many
changes
crazy items in Smite 2.
The items and
changes. It makes all the items in Smite 1 so boring.
And the patches after that, and we were like, this one's just perfect for Smite 2 as well.
There we go. All right, so those are kind of our 2 big new item changes, but we've got a good amount of just general item balance, and we can kick it off with the anti-heal items with the tier 1 Ruinous Poison coming up first, and you'll see kind of a trend, just seeing some buffs overall to anti-heal.
Yep. Okay. The goal here is just to make it that they proc both on damage and basic attacks all consistently across the board. Cool. We had some restrictions about some being only basic attacks, some being only ability. But with character flexibility, we just want to make sure that building into anti-heal felt like it was a smooth and seamless experience. So now all the anti-heal items will apply on both cases, and that's the main change with this.
Yeah, nice. So this is Ruinous Poison, Divine Ruin, and Brawler's Ruin, all seeing this exact same change.
Cool.
That's right.
That's nice.
All right, next up, Polynomicon.
Nothing wrong with making anti-heal.
So we're still keeping the Polynomicon with no cooldown. So you can really in-hand cancel weave through your whole kit. But we still wanted it to hit harder because it just wasn't feeling like it's doing much. It also has new icon, which maybe you've seen already, but that's there's going to be a couple
It was very
icons
bad
that are new
still.
or
65%?
completely new.
Maybe.
But yeah. Poly, just people were lacking that impact, so
maybe
buff,
we
sure
get somewhere
powerful.
with the
and the ability to weave it into your whole
65%?
kit is just a kind of a new dynamic that we've never had on Poly, especially for our mages from Smite 1, our int characters in Smite 2. So excited to see as we have crept this up in power bit
on
by
Kronos,
bit,
if he was in the game, would be sick. 3
be
auto,
a
1
big
auto,
factor
2
in the
auto. That would be dope.
Right. Pendulum Blade up next. A little bit of a fix/buff here for Pendulum Blade. We just fixed some of the description text, calling out some of the cooldown. It was inaccurately stated in the previous alpha weekends.
Yeah, it's actually a 50-second cooldown, making this effect, which is reducing all your cooldowns by a flat amount, a lot more powerful. But it was that way before, but people saw it as 180, went, I don't know if that's going to be good enough. Yeah. But it was actually 50, and it is 50, and it's pretty good.
This is wild. This is very strong item.
For sure. Yeah, it's one of those to where you can use it in the middle of a fight, especially 1v1s, to just quickly turn and move things in your favor. It's one of my favorite items, Smite 2.
I think with some more focus on this item, where might be nerfing it soon. But we'll find out. We'll find out.
All right. Speaking of nerfs, we got a couple more headed your way. Dagger Frenzy, first one up. Going to be seeing a nerf here in the next alpha weekend. Just decreasing that basic attack power of the active effect.
Dagger Frenzy was
kind of paired with the next one, also Death Metal. So this was one that was very specifically targeted and tracked from the tournament.
So many.
We just saw a lot of this self-stim active item build was just really strong.
Yeah.
So just wanted to offset the value of these items a little bit. So Dagger Frenzy, Death Metal, both strong self-stims. Even though Death Metal is a team stim, people were often carries on either teams were just activating them both together.
Right.
Yep.
Really, really powerful. That was just too powerful. It was taking over games. It was
very strong.
Something that we felt was clearly above the rest of the strategies and stifling options in the whole role. So you got the Dagger Frenzy nerf to just the basic attack damage, and then you've also got the Death Metal nerf coming up next, which is decreasing the strength and the int effect from that.
So, yeah.
Smaller nerf on death metal. It's a little bit more niche, and we want to still have the team effect, but these two effects were combined together, so these nerfs are combined together.
So far, so good.
So yeah, like you mentioned, death metal seeing a nerf also kind of akin to Dagger Frenzy, where the base strength and on the active effect, you're just going to be seeing some reductions there.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to Gem of Focus up next. Just a slight nerf. We're increasing the cost by a little bit.
Yeah, these items, both Gem of Focus and Teok Kagi, they're both the using abilities. You're getting movement speed and cooldown reduction, especially in hybrid builds. Stacking those two effects together is really, really potent. But even on their own, they are very, very strong. And so we're just taking either the cost up on Gem of Focus, which is the nerf there, or for Teok Kagi, we're increasing the cost and slightly bringing down the strength. Okay. Overall, just to make sure that these, we like the effect.
They were very good items in the jungle.
We just think it was too cheap. It was
especially if you would stack both of them, unlike a Ymir or jungle or something.
Reduced.
Zoom.
43 to 40, and also increasing the cost of Teok Kagi as well. All right, next up, Soul Devourer. Let's talk about Lifesteal, guys.
Well, Soul Devourer.
That's not Lifesteal.
No, that got nerfed. Good.
Soul Devourer is the
way too much
damage
damage.
Item, and it also was this was another one that was calculated and perceived from the tournament.
Yeah.
The last alpha, this was controlling games. This was being built on many characters, even ones who wouldn't want the rest of the stats just for the effect. So
yeah, pure strength carries were picking this up as just a 6th item, even though it didn't provide any damage except this effect. It was just too potent to what it was doing.
Yes, so just a straight up damage nerf on the passive.
Good.
Right. Now we can talk about Lifesteal.
Good.
Seeing some changes first to the overall stat, and then we've got a Lifesteal item that's
decrease efficiency.
A little bit farther down that we can talk about.
Yeah, so this kind of goes into the overall how our items are kind of built together, where we have this idea of the stat efficiency for the items so that we can keep things in relative balance with each other more easily going into Smite 2. And so Lifesteal was just too efficient overall. We saw that any item that had Lifesteal was often just overperforming from where it needed to. We had to do a lot of adjustments to try and resolve that, which just kind of meant that Lifesteal was statted too cheaply. So this is the actual stat per point adjustment that we've made, and then following you'll kind of see what the knock-ons of that. Either its cost has gone up, the Lifesteal has gone down, or a mixture of the two.
Yeah, I saw some criminal plays with Typhon's Fang over the last alpha weekend. It was insane. So Lifesteal seeing a little bit of a nerf here. And let's talk about Scythe, which is one of the lower tier items.
Right.
Going to be seeing a decreased cost, but also decrease in the lifesteal on the item.
Right, so this, because it's an efficiency nerf, this still is an overall nerf. It's essentially the efficiency is doing the math for you, even though this looks like a shift. But this is your tier 1 component, so this efficiency nerf is going to translate most literally into this, and then that's
I like that they've got like formulas for the balancing
in
Smite 2.
On
instead of just
this,
like
and then we're going to move
throwing darts at a dartboard,
that's going to have a very similar shift to it. It's going to be a little cheaper, but it's also going to have
significant. You have a formula that does it for you.
Less strength.
Or sorry, less strength. My bad.
Yep.
We reduced the strength to compensate, so we could keep it at the same amount of lifesteal. Thank you, Pawn. And then we move on to the Reaper and the blood items. Let's see, Reaper. We got a little bit of this. Reaper art is not finished yet, but it was looking clear enough. You can tell what it was. Yeah. So it's like this does not have the level of fidelity yet, but I was just talking to some of the artists, and I was like, let's just get him in there anyway.
Right, yeah.
Because then it makes it more clear, makes it stand up. I believe we also did that with the Amanita charm.
Nice.
But yeah, decreased cost on this
17
one, as well as decreased
lost.
strength by a significant amount.
To be fair, Reaper's dope though.
So this wasn't just an efficiency change.
The other part of this is also that we want items that you're buying. If you're building lifesteal, we can splash 5%, 10% lifesteal on a lot of things, but that doesn't mean you're really building into lifesteal as a choice. So we also want to make these items more significantly investing in the lifesteal component. So in a lot of cases, they're getting some lifesteal here so that they really fit
Reaper
into
was crazy.
This is why you're building these items. This is what you're going for.
It'll still be good.
But it's going to come at the cost of other stats. So in this case, you can see a clear example of that. You're trading off 17 strength previously for 5% more lifesteal, but this item's now more
doing Forgeblad into Reaper as like an Anher was like, woo!
We want to make focused items, not
until Anher got removed from the game after like
items
3
that are good
hours.
at everything.
Yep.
All right, and then we've got the.
But Anher's gonna be back.
Before AJ, first up, Bloodforge Blade.
And they gave him an efficiency pass.
Another lifesteal item, so decreasing the cost,
big strength decrease,
but increasing the lifesteal.
Big strength decrease, because this item was also becoming one of them was just extremely ubiquitous, which is okay. It has an active effect that we do expect a lot of people to want, but the value is going to come from that. It's going to come from the sustain. We didn't want it to also be one of the highest strength items in the game. That's just exceeding at too many different things all at once, right? That's exactly the space we're trying to avoid.
All right, and then last up for items, Bloodbound Book. Gonna
Yep.
be seeing another shift here.
Another cost decrease with a pretty significant int reduction as well to go with it. Again, because this provides lifesteal,
This
the
is fine.
efficiency is
These are good
overall
changes.
reduced as a whole.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
All right, well, that wraps it up for
egregious
items. And I'm
so
excited
far
about this
on
next
the
session because
balance
we have
front.
a lot of cool changes coming to Conquest in Alpha Weekend 3. So,
yeah.
Pawn, I will let you queue up and get ready to hop in the game here because the first thing we're going to be talking about is something brand new that if you're playing on the solo side of the map or the duo side of the map, maybe a little bit different over there. We've got a new camp that is replacing the gold chalices, the new rogue Cyclops camp.
Okay.
That's right.
Hey.
Yep.
There they are.
Yeah, here they are.
Side
So-
jungles are fully returned, huh, Pawn?
Yeah, we have camps over here to fight
We've
for,
come
which
full
gives
circle,
both
guys.
the
We did
duo
it.
lane and the solo lane
Side jungles are
something
back.
more to fight over. In addition to all the stuff that they've had before. So I think duo lane. This has replaced one of the gold camps.
Yeah.
The
The gold
the gold
interactable.
camp became this camp.
Correct.
Yes.
But only on the outer lanes. The middle lane still has the gold capture mechanic.
Yes.
We think it's really fun in the middle lane. We fight over it a lot, poke each other a lot. The outer lanes, we wanted something more combat oriented, something with a little bit more value and more engagement to it. And the interesting thing about this camp is it doesn't grant experience, just grants a larger amount of gold.
Oh.
And I'm 42 minutes to the match with no items, so you can see there killing those 2-1s gave me 120 gold. And then killing this final one gave me
the
180.
cooldown cheats.
Yep, there's the cooldown cheats. So you can see this is a huge gold amount that you can fight over, and if you're
That's a
competing
lot
with the
of
other laner, you
gold.
can also maybe pick 1 or 2 off and steal from your opponent, or there's just a lot of
Interesting.
variety that comes with fighting over a camp like this. that's close to lane.
Presumably,
that's
it
different
gives more
experience than
gold
the
as the
interactable
match
contention that you
goes
have
on.
around like the gold pile
And
camp
because
or
he's
the
40
war
minutes into a match,
So there's a
it gives
couple
ton of
themes
gold.
going on here. One is
Presumably.
new things to Conquest. Yeah, we're going to try to have consistent new beats to Conquest pretty much every patch. Some will be bigger than others, but something that changes your flow, what you care about in the game at various roles, every patch. The other one is just, and we're going to talk about that more as we go through Conquest, just overall pacing and intensity and feel of the Smite 2 Conquest map. So we wanted to add
That
some
Thanatos
more
movement
early
speed buff
game,
was very strong,
methods of advantage.
Right.
So something that you want to fight over, something that's going to lead to fights to kill, something that's going to lead to value and help you pressure a lead, something that's going to feel like the Conquest mode is a little bit more intense, faster.
Right. And for the Cyclops camps, they provide proximity gold, right? Not team gold.
Not team gold. No.
Correct. I think it is just for the person.
Just
who actually
gold
kills them.
for maybe as an assist rule, normal assist rules. I would think apply to that, but no team wide gold.
All right, awesome. All right, next up, let's talk about jungle camps. So the first big change, we kind of teased this in the blog that went out earlier this week. Heard a lot of feedback about buffs dropping at Infamy level 1. So that's not going to happen in Alpha Weekend 3. Talk to me about this change.
It's a similar to the reasons I gave for the Cyclops camps, right? Making things more intense, faster, sooner, and worth more value immediately. This is going to continue to add to the
Don't
dynamic
necessarily
of the value
think
of
things
the
need to be
meta,
more intense,
and if
faster,
not, that's
sooner.
going to take
We've
over
seen that in
the
Smite
entire
1.
We'll see
game
what
or not.
happens,
But it just feels good.
Harder,
it
better,
helps you,
faster, stronger.
Realize these advantages
Sometimes
more
it's
immediately.
okay
It
to
gives
wait
you
a
more
little bit.
playstyle options too, especially when you hear we reworked a lot of these jungle buffs, and a couple of them are very specifically designed to work really well for certain roles right out the gate at level 1 in a way that changes your routing, changes your pathing, and makes it more important than ever for you to get those buffs.
Yeah, we won't be able to go in game and see them because I had to disable minion spawns, but that also disables jungle spawns.
Okay.
So we'll just have to be able to talk about them. But yeah, being able to pick up a whole bunch of buffs, being able to have those buff drops, and being able to like power spike a player or get rewarded for invading no matter what happens, no matter what buff you have, does add a lot of different dynamic choices that you didn't have previously.
So we haven't talked about it yet.
Oh,
You can
sure.
see it on the screen. Is players can now pick up and stack all the jungle buffs.
Yes.
You can have one of each. Like the good old days,
Classic
like the
Conquest,
classic
baby.
Conquest. You can have all the buffs if you want them. So that is a really interesting dynamic.
This
It's like,
change,
do you
I
want to power spike
do
someone more?
think
Do you want
is
to spread
going
it out?
to
How do
add
you,
an immense amount of
position
snowball.
yourself across the map and who
to
gets
Smite
what,
2,
and
so.
additional value
For
over
invade.
fighting against your
I
opponent.
do
team before these,
believe-
So also, and it's just cool.
Yeah.
To have
Just
a bunch of buffs.
Have a bunch of buffs.
Yeah, it is awesome. So you're going to have the stacking rings like you have in the good old days, and it adds a lot of intensity to that early game.
Nice, yeah. And then the last change that's kind of on the screen here, but the requirement for leveling up Infamy for the camps has changed just a little bit, just to make it a little bit quicker to go from level 1 to level 2.
Right, it's going to rank up faster.
Yeah. All right, and then we've got a lot of buff changes. AJ, you kind of hinted towards lots of new effects for all the different buffs. We're not going to go into detail on every single thing because it's kind of a lot, but we did want to call out that each buff now has, at each Infamy level, additional or compounded effects.
And some of them have been reworked entirely.
Yeah.
Like some of them have different stuff entirely. So this one now has mana regeneration and the cooldown triggerable reduction, which is something that, you know, these are the things that have worked the best. Solo lane players generally want these things in solo lane, and it just gets better.
Yeah, it just gets better as you level it up. And then the Pathfinder buff.
This is a big one.
The big one, yeah, for sure. So the Pathfinder buff, seeing a lot of big changes. You've got the movement speed, of course, but then you've also got the claws. Now, whenever you slay a jungle monster, you get a return back in health after you kill it. And then as you upgrade it, which is the bigger one, you've actually got some additional pen on the buff, or not necessarily pen.
Why?
Shred.
Ability hits.
Why does Hyraz love junglers so much? They're already strong roll.
You want to invade and steal this one so you can get to level 4. Even level 3 is really good, but like you want to spike to level 4 as fast as possible. You want to stop your opponent from getting this because this is very strong.
And this one is heavily encouraging junglers to kill this first at the very beginning of the game. There's also some adjustments to initial spawn times and making sure these spawn when lane minions meet, so you're not behind. But like, it does benefit you to kill this first. You don't, I guess, have to, because it's sustain. It's not necessarily clear speed. It's movement speed. But this is something that you might want to start at now more frequently as a jungler, where previously people had maybe weren't really sure where to start or what really junglers' initial role was supposed to be. This helps focus that.
Yep.
Cool. All right, and the inspiration buff is up next. You've still got the +4 strength and int per ability hit, but as you level it up, you're actually going to be getting a new fun passive where nearby minion deaths store a soul. Whenever you hit an objective or a jungle boss, you fire all those souls at the target, dealing 15 magic damage per soul, which is
yeah, this is like hidden hog built into a jungle buff. So I'm really interested to see how people feel about this one. So, you know, this would be potentially really good for the support or the carry, depending on how you want to play it on your team comp. But you're going to be rewarded with direct stats by damaging your opponents, and then you're going to be able to play this little mini game to try to build up stacks and then take an objective at the right time. Be careful not to waste it, you know, just going in. If you're just trying to bait and reset repeatedly, go for your fire giant, this will get consumed, so you have to kind of watch out for that.
Yeah, and this is also good for towers too. Like, so in the lane when you're farming, you can push a tower and use that big burst of damage to get it below the pip threshold that drops those gold things. Push the tower more. So there's a lot of applications both in lane and then once you transition to late game, helping you push Phoenix.
Can't say I'm sold on a buff mini game.
That's really cool.
Can't say
all right, and then the last buff on the map, the caustic buff. It's got that still effect where attacks and abilities apply that poison that deals 2.5% max health over 3 seconds.
Just some minor really damage number changes to this one, and then it gets better and it starts to heal you a little bit as you rank it up. So not as many big changes. We've been really happy with this one.
Yeah.
So like we didn't really
invading was already really strong in the previous alpha, and now invading is going to be like literally
a buff here. You still got that shield, but then it of course increases as you level it up. You know, max 900 shield HP is insane. So.
Yeah. The notable thing here is, again, level 1, it drops immediately at the start of the game. So if you choose to go get these early, it can help you absorb some damage from jungle camps, or you can go into lane and gank a lane if you are farming these with that extra health shield, which can be the difference between being able to like continue a dive or not.
Yeah, mid can come back and get these relatively easily too, and then play really aggressive when they get back to their lane. So there's some really cool things you can do with it early game.
Cool. And then the trinkets buff, of course, drops from the Harpy camp. The Harpy camp seeing a change in Alpha Weekend 3. This camp is now always going to spawn 1 big Harpy with 2 small side Harpies.
Yeah, this is partially to address the people could just kind of drive by, throw 1 ability at the small Harpies and get the whole camp without investing any time. It meant that they didn't have to spend much time or effort to really clear these, which meant that they were just kind of free experience. Jungler had more limited access to it. We do think that you need to stop and actually fight this camp for just a little bit of time, and that 2 small, 1 big is kind of a good way of making that work. So just makes it a little bit more effort to actually kill these things, but they're rewarding appropriately for the time that you invest in them.
some things are conventional because the design just works the best. You know?
Right.
So like the standard jungle camp layout like that just does work really well.
Oh, and this also addresses some invading notes as well, right? Because if you wanted to invade, you could go into the back of these and just immediately burn one ability. Now you're going to have to invest more time, which is riskier. So there's still payoff for invading, but it's now a little bit more...
a little bit more difficult.
A little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. And then last up for Conquest, we've got a lot of just changes to the overall game pacing. We kind of talked about these in the blog that went out earlier today, but lots of changes to just general stats.
This is the part that I'm concerned about,
to towers,
'cause I like longer
phoenixes,
matches.
and the Titan. We've got some changes to minions overall, some changes to the map goal. There's kind of a lot here, AJ. If you want to just kind of give us
They want
the
games to be
overall
faster in
umbrella,
Smite
kind of
2.
like the highlights on what's happening here.
But
Yeah,
how
we've talked a lot
fast?
about these other specific features
How
so far about, and
fast?
how a lot of them pertain to the early game. This is pertaining to a lot of the late game.
Yeah.
So our number one goal is to just make sure Conquest feels fun, dynamic, engaging, and we want to make sure matches end on time as well. A lot of matches were running a bit long in the previous test, so a lot of these changes are here to help you, pressure your early leads more, make them more meaningful, make them more valuable, so you can, turn that into a win, and as well as to increase the speed at which you get to end game and get to full build. So that's what these general gold increases are going to do. And then making sure you can break down the enemy base effectively. So the way we're doing that is minions are now gaining that true damage reduction that they had in Smite 1 that makes them a little harder to kill as the game goes on. That works really well to just solve a lot of these problems of them getting full cleared too easily or not being able to push towers. And then Phoenixes, especially, are getting a pretty big nerf, so those can be killed easier. Towers getting a smaller nerfs, but still being nerfed, so those can be killed. Titan getting some nerfs. That guy was swinging.
Oh, yeah.
In the last alpha tests, like real hard. So some nerfs there, especially the penetration, so your tanks can tank it. And then finally, Fire Giant buff being a
on
little
paper.
more
I don't like any of
because
this either.
We had a lot of games
I
that
actually
we were
liked
observing
the
where
pace
people were
of the
taking
game.
Fire Giant and then not really converting into
Right.
anything that big after it. So we wanted to make sure like that was valuable. So a lot of changes here to make sure these games are fast, fun, impactful, and you're just getting objectives down and then getting the dub or the L and
There you
moving on.
go. Yeah.
And
I
a side
don't-
note too is
I don't
because
like
a
that
lot of things
attitude.
are now easier to kill. You're more.
That's a
they're more
bad
accessible to
attitude
kill.
for a MOBA.
We do have a lot of built-in things.
I don't
Fire
like
Giant getting
seeing
stronger each
get
time you
in,
kill, or
boom,
every
get
gold
out
theory gives your
there.
team a
That's
bonus.
called
And so
arena
those being
and
now more
assault.
accessible and be able to come online more early means that you can also
Conquest
use
is
those
supposed
effects
to
more
be
often.
tactical
you're more
and
likely to have
chess-like.
2 Fire Giant buffs.
Not get in,
where they
get
stack and
out,
increase
make
in power
it
by the time
fast,
you
get
actually
your
to end game,
objectives,
where
win the
maybe
game.
before you only had one.
Terrible
So
idea.
This compounds even
Terrible.
that accelerated endgame stuff that we've already implemented.
All right. Well, let's move on to gods next. And the first couple things we're going to talk about in the god section are kind of just overall kind of base.
The first
stat
one, that
changes.
line.
Yeah, the first one. It just says TTK changes.
Oh, we're going to talk about TTK changes
right? Yeah.
more? Smite players don't want to talk about TTK changes.
Nah.
Yes, they do. They really do. They really do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We do too.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about it, about Smite 1. We worked a lot with the design teams across Smite 1 and Smite 2, thinking about what's going to feel best, what's going to work best. And people have been hyped about it in Smite 1.
Yeah, a lot of really great feedback after the 9.5 revert.
Now, our Smite 2 TTK was already a little faster than the slow Smite 1 TTK. It was already faster than that. It was so somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But in seeing a lot of the feedback from the last alpha test and the tournament, and some of our discussions with testers and ambassadors and pros, and seeing the reaction to the community hype around the Smite 1 changes most recently. So we're going to be speeding up the early game TTK of Smite 2 as well. And this was something that we also felt like we had in the earlier alpha tests of Smite 2, but through some various balance and changes across a lot of different things, we kind of slowly crept up to actually making the
just for a little,
early game TTK too slow again.
Yep.
Area.
So we wanted to undo
just
some
a little,
of that. So
just
sorry,
a little
Pon,
math
anything
real
else
quick.
to add? Pon was the architect behind this, but
yeah, that's basically all of it, right?
Just for a little math.
We didn't go nearly as far as Smite 1 did because we already had
a lot of hype.
less protections overall. Our health
lot of hype.
different. The gameplay balance of like what stats provide and how the scalings work is also a very
big
different
hype
experience. So we only did the 25% of the base health to really target that early game lethality.
Not my
and
game.
Again, as AJ mentioned, we had more lethality in the early versions of Smite 2. That's something we liked, but again, over time, implementing showing new item effects, giving new counterplay, balancing characters. We saw that some of that crept up to being a bit slow again. So this is kind of returning us back to where we like Smite 2 to be in the first place as well.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
I know, right? All right, the next one is another big one. We've done a pass on CC to just kind of reduce CC kind of across the game. So got some changes to diminishing returns, and we've done a pass on a lot of gods in their CCs to kind of reduce the timing.
Yeah, I think this covers two major points. I think the first one is with everyone not having beads by default, right? We had the assumption that everyone had beads. Now that assumption is not true anymore. CC, we had to look at.
Oh, they made a pass on all CC to reduce light. I never thought that was going to happen. Yes, it's easier.
Just kind of a more consistent experience across the board. Right now in Smite 2, you can be CC'd for like 1.5 seconds, and then the next fight you're actually CC'd for only like 0.5 seconds because you still have DR from the previous fight that was in there. So what we've done is lowered the overall CC that characters do, but we've also increased the base amount that CC gets reduced to. So DR stacks has now been cut in half, so DR is functionally halved in strength, and it doesn't persist from fight to fight nearly as much. So you can expect CCs to feel more consistent generally when they're applied to you, but the initial first time you're CC'd is going to be lower in general across the board.
So those might seem a little conflicting. I guess, it's true because we're like nerfing DR is like buffing CC in a way, but it's like we're trying to get to a point where the DR feels reasonable on its own, and that's an important goal to continue to strive for anyway. And the previous
this will be a hard one on paper, you'll have to like
intense, especially in that duration,
play it out,
mostly that
vibe it out,
because of legacy reasons.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily think that was the best design,
right?
So we wanted to address that.
I think that's the right direction for CC. That sounds good to me.
The floor
more
CC,
consistent,
the
lower
CC for a lot of gods, especially the ones that, there's going to be little bits of difference, some more than others, like Ymir still going to keep his notable feature as having one of the longest stuns in the game. Like, that's still a Ymir thing. We didn't want to set him super low to some of the quicker, faster stuns that DPS characters that maybe don't deserve to have as long of a stun. So these weren't all exactly the same.
Yeah, I think Ymir's like a 1.5 second stun got reduced to like 1.25 or like 1.3. It's a lot. Over proportionally, he still has like 80 to 85% of his stun, whereas Zeus went from 0.75 to 0.5, so he lost 33% of his stun by default because he is a DPS character that has a lot of AoE potential to stun and can multi-stun. Like, so we've taken the character into account when we've also done this adjustment. So it wasn't like every single character just lost 0.25 and that we called it a day. We looked at each character individually and what they provide to a team.
Right. Yep. So DR is still important to not have just like infinite CC chain type of problems.
Yep.
But it's going to be less intense, so more consistent, and then everything's going to be nerfed off the bat, so also more consistent.
Yep.
And then if you go to smite2.com, we've got all the details on all the individual changes for all the CCs on the gods listed below for you all.
That'll be interesting to test. Right, I guess so in general, though, if they reduce everybody's HP by like 20%,
let's just talk about some general gods.
Then if the CC doesn't last as long as you, it doesn't matter because you're still dead.
So not necessarily balance here, but the team did a lot of work on just like visuals and timings for Anhur that we kind of talked about in the blog on Tuesday, but just making him feel better.
Yeah.
It's very good that we really want to put these on the patch notes.
Yeah.
Right? We want people to know that this is an extremely important priority to us, these types of things.
I do want to see how Anhur feels after these changes.
We know that you guys know specifically what to look out for, so that you can give us feedback so that we know, like, did we actually make this character feel better? Did we actually do what we were supposed to be doing here? We could just kind of say generically we made Anhur better, but we want to point out very specific stuff that we've done so that you know, like, oh, does Shifting Sands feel better? Oh, does Impale feel better? Do the audio cues and the visuals better matches audio through a timing? Does that make a difference? And so definitely play Anhur, definitely see how he feels. He's one of the characters that we've also used as like a good benchmark character.
I'll play
He has a very tight combo window where when you want to pillar and tail.
And he wasn't in the last alpha.
He's been like the
for
go-to
more than like
character
2 hours.
Is there something sluggish? Anhur's going to expose it. So definitely play Anhur, see how he feels. And that's what the purpose of the alpha is.
We'll definitely be looking forward to all the feedback on her, and if he feels great, we're going to be using him as an example for doing a pass on timing for the rest of the cast. Next up, we've got a buff for Anubis coming in Alpha Weekend 3. Death Gaze, the ultimate, going to be seeing a damage increase.
I love a good Goobus buff,
Oh,
as
yeah.
everybody knows. But yeah, he just felt a little underwhelming in the tournaments and in the previous alphas, and just wanted to make sure that this ability is actually really doing what Goobus needs to do. So
Anubis was
that
underwhelming.
scaling, although
He
looking like a
was.
relatively small amount over the number of ticks,
Particularly
this
early.
ability, because this is the tick damage. That's being buffed here.
Yeah.
So that base damage and that scaling damage is going to add up a lot, and you're going to be hopefully getting back to more like what you could do in the old days of the Goobus.
All right.
Admittingly,
Staying
they
in
reduced
alphabetical
everybody's
order
HP
here,
by so much.
Athena
But
going to be seeing a nerf. Athena really strong in the last alpha weekend. So we're going to be seeing the reduction in the taunt slow by 40%.
This is more of a shift, because in some cases it'll be a buff, some cases it'll be a nerf. But one thing people noticed was you taunted Athena, and that target didn't really move. They felt like they were kind of stuck in place, in contrast to Smite.
calling this a nerf?
So this is just reduce the taunt slow so that they actually move a bit more. In some cases, that means that they're not going to be basically stuck in place for your team to fight. In some cases, they're going to be displaced more.
All right.
It
Next
just
up,
felt
Kukulkan,
bad.
seeing
It just felt
a
bad.
few buffs here for Alpha Weekend 3.
Yeah,
Snake
Cuckoo
Boy,
sucked.
I love him.
Yeah.
So he's a mana character, right? So he kind of had high mana costs, but it's like if he's going to gain the benefits of his mana build, he has to have normal mana costs to feel that, right? So like if we're going to proportionally high, which was actually, I think, hurting his intended theme. So those are small buffs, that's not a big deal. What we got to look at here is the whirlwind numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And just like I said for Anubis, these might look like small changes, but when you add up all the ticks, this is a pretty significant buff. Yeah. So again, Kukulkan was kind of just not doing what people expected him to do. He wasn't meeting his traditional role expectations of a mage that can clear wave very well. So we wanted to make sure we increase that to make him feel like he needs
both
to feel.
Kukulkan and Anubis
Right,
with their tick
next up,
damage
Ymir,
we're having a
buff
tough
here.
time.
To Frostbite,
compared to, like,
the passive,
Zeus.
increase in the damage here.
This is the damage reduction. So when you have Frostbite applied to someone, they deal less damage to you.
We're going to buff Ymir?
Ymir's an
Damn.
interesting case because he's a good example of, like, he had the highest base health in Smite 1. So he was just naturally tanky by default. And we've moved toward the base stats being closer to each other with some adjustments, but letting the kit really shine for what the character is supposed to be.
Okay.
And because we've lost so much of his
Combat
health,
Blink,
we want to bring this aspect up
Ymir
so that when you have
with the
Frostbite on you,
longest
you are
CC
going
in
to
the
noticeably
game.
feel that you're dealing less damage to Ymir. That helps him fill his role as this frontline, in-your-face
Okay.
bruiser who is just constantly on you.
I also love how when you go full face punch Ymir, this also helps you stay kind of tanky even when you're not. It's not going to be as impactful, but this is a cool way that we can put some tankiness on Ymir's kit in an untraditional way that still feels like it fits into the face punch build.
Yeah, so even if you go on attack speed crit,
style.
you still got a little bit of that tankiness.
Right.
That's great. All right, next up is Fenr, another top performer in the past Alpha Weekends, seeing a couple nerfs here to Seething Howl and Ragnarok.
Yeah, this god's strong.
Yeah.
In Smite 2. Yeah, straight up. So, Seething
Just
Howl,
straight up.
big strength nerf.
He goes straight up.
Because that scales up. A lot of times with these types of
Straight
stat
up.
stems, we usually do that with the rank ones. Pretty impactful. If the rank one is like 5 or so, that's maybe could be considered balanced, but it makes the ability really unexciting to get, especially the first rank of, and then these are often left to rank up later in the game. So like you often see the higher starts, but this one was just scaling way too high. So that's coming down a lot. And then a bit of a cooldown increase on Ragnarok, although he might still be feasting on those combat blink players not having beads.
Yeah, that's true.
You won't have beads. And Fenr can have combat blink, and he can combat blink while he's a big dog.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
you
scary.
don't have beads. So we thought about the dynamics of Fenr a lot. Wanted to get a little nerf in there, but I'd still be watching out for Fenrs. And if you're playing against a Fenr, maybe think about switching.
Yeah, getting beads, starting out. All right, next up, Chalk is up next, seeing a nerf
What
as
is
well
this,
to Rain
2006?
Dance.
Yep, just this makes him really hard to box in a lot of cases. He's very anti-carry or someone trying to box him. And we just wanted to make that a little bit less extreme. Still a very strong strength of his, still really good. Obviously, 25% and 20% attack speed slow is still really good, but just taking a notch away from that.
All right, next up, Hades. Introduced last test.
Probably gonna
really
get a
strong.
pretty big nerf,
got some
huh?
really exciting changes on the
Yeah.
Ultimate. So Pillar of Agony going to be seeing a nerf here in Alpha Weekend 3.
Just that alt damage. Yeah. You pretty much said it there, Isaiah.
Yeah, also the protection's being pretty significantly reduced too, because now he can relocate, he can use his 3 inside of it, he can silence people. He doesn't need nearly as much defensive capability as he had previously.
I mean,
double nerf.
That seems to me to be a less damage nerf than overall HP nerfs to all players.
Kind of
so he's probably fine.
Here. Stellar Burst is now going to grant haste.
He's probably fine.
So this is a feature that was there in Smite 1, wasn't ported over to Smite 2. Soul's AO2 is a very unique ability with a lot of very hidden, small, subtle things. And this is just one that we missed, and it makes it feel better to cast as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next up, we've got another fix coming up here for Neath. Broken Weave's going to be fixing some issues.
Just a text issue. Yeah. But this text issue spiraled into a whole bunch of balance issues and debating about magical and physical damage in the entire, fabric of the universe. But no, shout out to the ambassadors for helping us catch this one and really clarify what was going on. Neath has some really unique int versus strength build options in Smite 2 that really have her play like a completely different character, which when you go into it and make her different abilities better.
Yeah.
And the main point was detonating weaves is like her int mage style build, and her passive said that it did physical damage. So that was confusing people because they're telling me this is what I'm supposed to do with this build, but the text here, but it wasn't actually dealing physical damage. It was dealing magical damage all along, but it was very confusing that was kind of like talking people out of it and making the kit feel strange and muddled, which is correct until we fixed it. So hopefully this is a lot more clear now. So build strength, be a carry, focus on your basic attacks, or go int.
Be a caster.
Maybe play mid lane.
Neath is your favorite, so God's
spawn and detonate minigame for
Neath is a great example of the reason why strength and int and being able to buy everything is just more fun.
Well, that wraps it up for changes for the
it's just more fun
cast. Let's talk about some of the new characters being added to Alpha Weekend 3. We've got 3 coming up for starting tomorrow. We've got Thanatos, the Morrigan, and Hecate. Talk to me a little bit about the additions this round for the Alpha Weekend. Any specific thought process? Any general excitement about the characters?
Very exciting characters across the board.
Yeah, Thanatos being another jungler is going to be really exciting. That was something that people have been asking for specifically, is another character that could really do the jungle role very well. Thanatos is exactly that. He also was a good candidate because we needed to get flight tech in. We have a lot of characters that fly.
Flight tech.
We haven't built anything for that yet, and so he was a really good candidate for that. The Morgan, another character that we've actually
talked about no mana bar, huh?
We've had a working version of her ultimate since like the very early days of Smite 2's development. But this is the patch where we really pushed it forward, ironed out a lot of the bugs that we had with it, really made the flow of it correct. Obviously, we fixed as many things as we can. It is a very complicated ability as a whole, so I'm sure people will
get into it. Oh yeah, we'll get into it.
People will find cases, but we wanted to make sure that she was in this test because building her really early means that we're forced to do a lot of things that are good for the game. Like she had an issue where she was slow to replicate when she transformed. That forced us to look at our entire network backend to resolve this case that just makes the game better overall. So getting her in early.
Ironic.
Oh,
you can do it.
Early is just nothing but good for the game.
Replicate is a technical term for
ironic
multiplayer information.
I was going to go refresh their page.
So like something happens on your machine, and before the other players see it, that's the replication. So yeah, there's a lot to consider with this ability. And then it's finally time for Hecate.
Hecate, first all-new goddess for Smite 2 exclusively. I'm super excited to hop in game. So let's kick things off with Thanatos. Pawn, you ready to show us off Thanatos in game? We've already seen a little bit, some of those combos that you've been showing off.
And we got the highlights here on the screen.
No mana bar is fun.
So yeah,
that's
we can
fun.
hop right into game.
I like
so
that.
Thanatos, a very successful character in regards to being able to
little
really
stuff like that
target,
is like cool.
Execute them, hunt them down with your 2, just get in people's face, burst heal up, and just snowball a fight really effectively. And so that's something that we want to
Damn, that 3 is so much faster.
And then the things that we've decided to amplify up for Smite 2 are kind of in that vein. So the major changes that you're going to notice are his AO2 now has an extra damage bonus effect that happens when you when the target is in execute range. Whoa. So when you activate this, you're not only getting that penetration, but you're also going to make it so that you deal a flat 15% increase, which is incredibly good for crit because that just multiplies with crit, it means your death Scythe
100% bonus movement speed when the target's at 1 health.
It basically turns your
Scythe into an execute.
Scythe into an execute on its own right. So very strong ability. Just lets you continue down this road of chasing down targets. We've also done some things like increase the speed of the 3.
Man, that's so much faster.
So you can use this as more of an in-hand cancel type ability as well.
That's crazy.
And then for the ultimate, we've actually we've reduced the root duration when you land. The root's really important. Make sure you don't run past your target after you land. But it was 0.5 seconds in Smite 1. Now it's 0.2. And then just a few nice quality of life fixes. Like there's a bug that's bothered me forever in Smite 1, where if you kill someone in melee range with your 1, it doesn't go on cooldown fast enough, so you don't get the benefit of the cooldown reduction of your passive. And that's fixed in Smite 2. So the goal with Thanos really was keep his core identity. We feel like his theme is really strong. Adding a lot of extra stuff to his kit would often move power away from the things that he really excels at. And so we just wanted to make sure that he felt as smooth as possible. But if you're a Thanos main, you're coming into this and feeling like this character is just smooth, flows really well, does the things that you like, with that little bit of extra stuff to highlight his gameplay, like that bonus damage on the 2.
Yeah.
One of the most popular Smite 1 gods of all time.
Oh, absolutely. I played so much Thanos.
Amazing artistic portrayal and just a really clean kit that feels great to use in really hype and exciting plays. The other big change that's on Thanatos is he doesn't use mana anymore.
I know, right? I was going to call out.
He just doesn't need it. He just doesn't have it. Just doesn't care about it.
He just doesn't have it.
Yeah, we've also played a little bit with the amount of health that he does lose and how much he generates as well, just to make it feel more like the resource that he's burning through and regenerating more rapidly as well. But yeah, just cool. Like it. It's kind of just it's a little bit weird, but it's cool to see just no mana bar.
Right.
He's got a new anim posture when he activates his 2 and flies around. He gets kind of spread wings while his 2 is active.
Yep.
Cool.
And just his wings overall, like his model got a lot of really cool updates. Like people noticed in our flash tests that his Scythe actually has different material work on it done, and it's been updated. His model overall has different material work. His wings
he looks pretty
fantastic.
Cool. It looks pretty cool.
Just overall, just a lot of really nice things.
Scythe weapon just still unbeatable for video game character coolness. Like Scythe weapon characters are always super cool.
I can't wait for everybody to hop in tomorrow playing some Thanatos. And I can't wait to see Thanatos picked up in the tournament. If he even gets through, I expect him to be banned a lot during our esports on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
But, we've got up next another character.
One other small thing. And this is going to be more true with the Morrigan, because obviously the Morrigan, her ult, she transforms to gods and interacts with all the new Smite 2 systems. The execute reveal has one additional application, which is it does show people in stealth bushes.
Yeah.
So if someone is trying to hide from you while you're in the air, or you're just chasing someone down, they cannot escape you by just hiding. We are talking also about making that see-through stealth truly as well, but that's something that won't be in AWE3. We're still discussing that, so let us know if that's something you guys want to see.
Yeah, give us that feedback. All right, up next, the Morrigan. Let's talk about the Morrigan in Smite 2.
Yep.
See if the Morrigan immediately breaks the game.
Just has so much, technical work that goes into her. And one of the cool things we'll find out when we get to Ultimate is that the new systems of Smite 2 play with this character in some really interesting ways, to put it short.
Yeah, so overall, the Morrigan, a lot of the focus has been on the ult, and when we first implemented it, our main goal was copy the other character exactly. And then we're going to start figuring out what exception rules we want to have. Where in Smite 1, a lot of the rules that she had was kind of forced because of how we could copy the character and make it work. We started from a fresh slate. And so when you transform to a god, you'll get their abilities, and you'll get them with cooldowns reset like you expect.
Right.
But you'll also get all their items. And because active items exist, you get their active items, and their active items will have no cooldown. So if someone has Scepter Dominion and you transform, you get access to that immediately. Additionally, we're also going to let you copy their defensive relic. In this test, this won't be how it is final, but in this test, that also won't have a cooldown. So you'll be able to have access to their blink or beads.
It won't be on cooldown at the time you transform into it. It'll still go on cooldown.
Right.
It'll still go on cooldown, but I think when you transform back, it'll just be yours again.
Right.
We are planning on making that a shared in the future.
Okay.
But just for this test, know that that's
so you can transform into someone, use all their kit, use all their active items, use their combat blink, and then turn back into Morrigan and immediate combat blink again.
Yep. Yeah. For this test, it's very strong.
I thought that this character didn't change very much, Pon.
The ultimate on its own has a lot of interesting stuff. Other quality of life things is if you're a Morrigan player, you know that you have to kind of learn everyone else's where their AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4 where they are, so to know what to rank for yourself, because when you transform in Smite 1, you just inherit the rank that they have. Or you if you spiked your 2,
put your ranks, their kit.
Yeah, their 2 is going to be ranked up.
Right, you don't want 4 points in Death Scythe or Scent of Death at level 9.
No, I do not want 2 points in Scent of Death at level 1. So now what it does is we actually now record how they ranked up their skills.
Oh,
so
it ranks it up like them now.
Exactly.
I want that rank 5 Death Scythe when I become Thanos.
Yeah, it's basically what they're picking. You'll have access to. You don't have to worry about changing your Morgan playstyle to accommodate that. It also means if you're transforming into like a jungle Athena versus a support Athena, one might be maxing taunt,
That's
one might
super
be maxing
cool,
more damage,
actually.
and you actually might want the CC. So this just makes so who you're transforming into better matches what they're currently doing in that.
I like that.
If you are a higher level and you transform, it'll then defer to auto buy after it's allocated all the points. So at the end, auto buy generally spikes one ability.
And then I can blame Pon for it.
Then you can blame that we have made terrible auto skills, and it's a problem. But overall, this should make it a lot easier for Morgan players to play the way they want to when they're playing the Morgan and transform into something that is useful and impactful and representative of the character they transform.
It's a good change.
Now you got to talk to me about the rest of the kit here, Pon.
It gives Morgan
off a
way more
so
early
let me actually.
Instead of just only being able to transform into gods
so
that
you
want it there
your
too.
Passive is very similar. It does the AoE, does the damage over time.
New effects look so nice.
That auto
all the new
attack
effects look really good.
Dope.
And this is an in-hand effect in the sense that it can crit too. So if you want to build crit and you want to make this percent health damage that it does crit, feel free. And
AoE like basic attack. So it's like
I actually went a like attack speed jungle start to specifically make use of this by clearing the jungle. It was actually really good. So definitely play around with that.
Cool.
We are also talking about in the next alpha weekend, so it won't be in this one. This will proc your 2. So if I use it now and here, you'll see that this actually does work, but that's not going to be representative of what's in AWE3. But know that that's another thing coming up for her in the next weekend.
It's good to know.
You got your 1, your clones. They fire, they stun. The new VFX look really sick.
They do.
You got the 2 with the mark. And then the 3 has some new rules. So, I'm supersonic, so my is supersonic. So
That's amazing.
Clone inherits your
Sonic
speed.
and Shadow kit.
Your clone inherits your speed, and it also inherits the animation state that you're in when you cast it. Our goal was to really make this ability confusing. Because you're supposed to try and deceive your opponents. And so it copies your movement speed, it copies your animation state, the health bar switches seamlessly to this, it copies your current health. All the stuff gets copied to make it as confounding as possible. And now when the clone, let me turn off supersonic.
They're really believable. Yeah. People are falling for it.
Yeah. And now the clone, when it gets hit, so let's see if I can get these these Ymir bots will not attack them. Maybe I can get
basic
the
attack. If they just basic attack, you can throw them in front of them.
You can see there the health bar disappeared and it turned into that kind of ghostly version of itself. Cool. It stays alive after it gets hit, and it'll actually kind of laugh at the person who triggered it to be like, haha, you got fooled. But the reason for that is
stuff. I love
when you throw it out, it actually grants vision. So if something is in this bush, so if I spawn a Ymir here, the bots aren't going to respect this because bots are weird and they cheat and they don't respect our rules. But
you can put one behind a wall, maybe.
Imagine, maybe that might work. Let's see. This provides
vision. These are wards essentially. These are shootable wards.
So you can see again, Sonic again.
Hey, Fire Giant.
Yeah, the Fire
Giant got confused too. He turned around.
Yeah, he was really.
He fell
loving
for
the
it.
supersonic.
This lets you scout out bushes. This lets you scout things. You can throw this in the lane, and again, it is very convincing. People will get fooled by this. If you're running forward, it's really hard for them to actually see that moment of where it changed.
Speed.
We looked for that kind of improvements to make sure that the base kit felt really good as well.
So even though there's no like straight up ability rework on this kit, you can see there's a lot of really cool technical things that have extremely impactful gameplay results as well. Yeah. So this character, I think, keeping her reputation for skill ceiling and complexity in a very, interesting and unique ways. And, shout outs to the engineering team for taking care of her really early and thinking about this from the beginning of the whole game.
Yeah.
It's essentially designed around making sure we could do this ability in a good way that will serve us well for years.
Yeah, shout out to Josh especially. There's I'm
loving the UI at the top too, with all the Ymirs in one Athena.
Into madness with programming of all the edge cases that can happen here and what they had to do to resolve this stuff. Just I want to make sure that I shouted out that because this was the ultimate is just a huge undertaking in general.
Absolutely.
It really
confirmed the 9v9 Smite.
Yeah, we didn't actually transform yet.
You turned into Ymir bot.
Yeah.
So you get Ymir bot's super bot powers, which sometimes bots just do weird stuff. I don't know exactly what it would be, but.
And you can see we have the same tech where you make sure that you actually finish your ability before you detransform. All the base stuff that you would expect to see should work here.
Do that transform again? Oh, there's that's really cool. That anim stance.
Oh, yeah.
Who am I gonna transform into?
Put an anim stance in for this, so now you can tell when she is trying to choose a new target. You can tell when you have this targeter up. Again,
it just flows into the actual transform really cool.
Yep.
You think Ymir would be a good choice? I don't know. I was thinking Ymir personally.
Glow, on the outside of the god model too.
Yep, it's there to help you also know that this is a transform target. Just to make sure that there's a lot of things that happen where like you see two of the same exact character and it's kind of hard to parse. That just kind of helps with the information of that.
But what about Ymir?
Well, that is the Morrigan. Shall we get into Hecate,
the newest
god, all new god of Smite 2, our first Smite 2 exclusive god reveal, right?
Yeah, this is the first new Smite god since Newt. So I know it's been a while coming. Yeah. We've had a lot of things to do on the game. There was some previews, so some people have already been spoiled on some things about the kit. If you want to know more about the more deep details about her development process and her themes and things like that, you can check out the Closer Look blog post.
Right.
But I'll cover a lot of that as we go through it here.
I think her 1, 2, and 3 are give or take the same, and then her ultimate got changed to be the
goddess and a intelligence user.
She looks sick,
starting off upon just showing off her passive right off the bat. So like we went ahead and
look at that cloth tech, dude.
This character from the very beginning.
Are we calling her Haktua?
Some of her kit was tested internally.
She's that Haktua.
Previewed a little bit and then reworked. So actually we've had almost 3 abilities completely reworked.
Yeah.
The 1, the 3, and the 4 have almost entirely been completely reworked since the last time anyone saw her. The passive wasn't changed. So the passive uses the interact mechanic conditionally in a way that Smite 1 God couldn't do. So we have the interact system. So what Hecate can do is she can buff a structure on the map. She can have any one structure can be buffed, and it puts out an HP regen and mana regen aura in the area to allied gods. So you can use this any number of times on any number of structures, but only one can be active at once. So effectively, Pawn's just moving it around from structure to structure right now. This passive also has another component that is especially, this is some real eldritch magic stuff. And that is really what I think thematically, Hecate is something people wanted from her. This is also just a really,
she's a
asking
cool character.
A player to do something very different and new in a passive in a way we never have before.
Right.
So Hecate's passive mythic ritual also lets her interact and perform a ritual with an allied god, but only if that allied god has killed an enemy god recently. And if you successfully interact with that god, you both get a strength and intelligence buff.
Nice.
So Hecate gets rewarded for doing that. So you kind of do a little, witches commune after a successful kill with each other, which is just a lot of flavor. It's really cool. It takes some practice to build that into your play style, your muscle memory of playing the goddess. You'll see prompts on the gods if they're viable to buff when you walk near them, and the interact is extremely forgiving, as forgiving as possible. All you have to do is hit the button in the area and not die or get interrupted. Right. So it doesn't matter if they go out of range, you can move the whole time. There's no self-root, there's no range check on completion. You just have to engage the ritual and then you will get it off.
It's done. Nice.
We're showing off some more of their animation. Shout out to the animation team, the rigging team, tech art team, because cloth.
That cloth some tech.
Cloth, right? I talked about it a lot in the blog post, but like when we were thinking about what we do different in Smite 2 that we couldn't do in Smite 1, we have true physics simulated cloth animation. Previously, we had to hand key animate every piece of cloth, and so adding excessive cloth was extremely, time consuming and potentially performance nightmare, which
Nightmare.
cloth simulation is still performance nightmare. But we've been working a lot on getting this. There's been a huge focus on the character throughout her entire development cycle, and it turned out really, really well, and it looks super real and natural because it's using that physics simulation.
Cool auto attack too.
Shout outs to Colossum. All right, ability 1 is triplicate form.
Yeah, so
ability here.
This was one of the rework abilities. This was a theme that people really wanted to see more of. So Hecate is often thought and depicted as a triple goddess. So I wanted to highlight and show that in a unique way that played into her kit and her themes. Whoa. So like these aren't just clones of her. Didn't want just these are not 3 entities that are all the same. Yeah. The impactful mythology behind this and theme behind this is that there's different roles that a goddess, a woman go through their life, and they have different aspects of different traits. So Hecate has these 3 traits as well through her form. So this ability is effectively a projectile that alternates between shooting the first form versus the second form. The first form applies a mark, and that mark will cause the character to take additional damage when they take any source of god damage.
All right.
So this is a flat trigger per tick. So this combos super well with gods like fast ticking gods.
Kukulkan Anubis.
Kukulkan Anubis, which we'll get there. But Hecate also plays very well as a support or potentially a mid as well. So that's the first ability, or the first fire of the first ability. The other one, the purple one, is a Mez. And you can see whenever she activates the ability, the other form that's not being cast is, melding out of her and helping her fire the third form. So you get all 3 of them together in this cool triplicate attack where Hecate herself and her power form help her shoot her affliction form, and vice versa. Really cool animation,
and
visual animation trick that I think would have been a huge pain to set up in Smite 1. But this is some of the really cool tech we could do in Smite 2. Also, the first character with a Mez, I believe.
Yep, this forces us to build the Mesmerize tech.
Yeah, so this was the first character to have Mesmerize tech. This really works well as a quick interrupt. And these projectiles also have a little bit of additional lifetime. They outro at the end. They do a little animation, and they can still hit people. So you can, if you walk through that while they're doing that, you'll still get hurt, or you'll still get the effect applied to you. So they have a little bit of lingering on them. It has some cool edge cases with blocking people's paths away from them so they can't run right through it, especially if you can't double hit with it, so if you hit them with it, but you can kind of lead people with it and put it in cool places to block people. Gives them a little bit more of a true physical form to play with the themes.
Cool.
All right, ability 2, Pon. This was a joint effort between me and Pon over many months, so this is a really unique ability as well. Spell Eater.
Yeah.
This ability places a large radius, and then you refire it to fire a smaller explosion. The large radius charges up in damage based on every ability activated in the area from any god on any team.
Yep.
So you can place it and charge it up yourself, and then you can see the area in the sky got a lot more powerful when it was fully charged, and the damage ramps up significantly. It can charge up 12 times to deal 2.2 times damage. But you also can skillfully charge this up really quickly by placing it in a smart place around a team fight.
It's true.
Everybody's fighting,
That's so dope.
It's
not, bro.
Really
it doesn't hit us that hard.
For really
At least
damage. It's a very
I should say,
unique
it
way
didn't
to
hit that hard in its last iteration.
Never really quite done.
It didn't.
It effectively gives her
maybe it does now.
A not quite ultimate level ability in her normal kit if you're willing to put in the effort to charge it.
Yeah, Pon's gonna show it off, but what's the range look like this, AJ?
Well, so the range is related to Hecate's aim related to her. But again, like we talked about in the passive, we didn't want to restrict the kit. So this has minimal restrictions. You can place that debuff, that charging area anywhere on the map, and you can leave it for as long as you want. There is no timeout. We don't force you to refire this when you don't want to, ever. So you can place it and let it charge and then come back to it, and then Hecate can only aim X units, in front of her with the refire, but it will fly from wherever it's charging all the way across the map to go do that damage in this larger arcing path, regardless of what you do. So a lot of really cool visual effects and tech here, really trying to play up that charge effect, and again, trying to avoid unnecessary restrictions. We've been removing a lot of those from Smite 1 Old Gods in the recent patches in Smite 1, so the Smite 2 design philosophy, trying to embrace that from day one, making abilities that are unique and powerful and have really specific and interesting play styles that they evoke. Okay, anything else I missed on that one, Pawn?
Nope. I think the only other thing is like that some of your abilities charge it quicker.
Well, we'll get into that in the next ability, Repel Magic. So this is actually the only one that charges it quicker.
Yep.
All right, let's see.
So this ability is a lock-on ally targeter. So you can aim at yourself or any ally. When you fire it, it'll deal immediate damage around them, and then it'll put a spell shield on them. So you see that purple shield. The first time we've used this type of mechanic as well.
Cool.
So this is effectively a health shield. Works like any other health shield, except it only absorbs magical damage. So if you use this health shield and then walk up to on her, it's not going to do anything for you. When she does spell shield anyone, herself or any ally, she gets a movement speed buff, always. And if she activates spell shield in the area of the AO2, it will charge it for triple charges.
Cool.
So as Spell Eater is eating up spells, the spell shield is giving it an extra appetizer and dessert to go along with it. But yeah, really unique thing. We've never done this before. As far as the spell shield goes, it stacks with all other shields, and if you have a regular shield,
you hope her ultimate transports her with another ally.
Next to each other, side by side on your health bar.
Oh, you are going to be
stacking tech so
happy with her ultimate.
The most narrow priority shields or the shortest duration shields will get absorbed first to try to maximize
you really
your
set
shield
the bar
value.
low for what her ultimate could do. You really set it low.
And yeah, this is really cool in a way to like stack on some bonus damage around. Like if your tank or jungler dives in, you can get a bunch of bonus damage by hitting, snapping it onto them and hitting the enemy targets around them. It's just it really feels really good and satisfying to use, and it's like it's lock on too, but with some specific constraints about who's in the area. In a way that makes it, I think, feel really fair.
She has a way better horizontal, something like that.
Yeah, and this is definitely
one
of the abilities that really showcases her as she obviously can play like a mage and deal damage.
It's a topsy-turvy ult for sure.
People in our internal playtest who are like exclusively playing Hecate support, and it is.
And think she's like a better support than anything else.
And it is very effective with the 2 scaling and having high base damage when it scales, combined with the 3 being a very good counter, especially to a lot of magical characters, and synergizing with and the 1 giving that damage buff that can synergize with a lot of rapid tick characters. She can be a very potent support.
She's got access to a mez.
She essentially has medium in scaling across the kit. But she has a couple things like Pawn mentioned that do a decent amount of very good base damage, or synergize very well with even if you're not building
she?
So
she
that's
isn't. There's no class.
AO1 and the 2, and then the 3 is explicitly very supporty feeling and giving someone a shield. So the character plays really well as like a utility int character, or a true support. And now we got to see the ultimate. Talking about utility int character, it's hard to top the utility that this baby gives you.
Open the gate.
Oh, you're gonna do the full combo. So, oh my gosh.
OP.
Okay, that was a lot, but let's
OP,
look at what
OP,
it is. Let's hit that one Ymir Pawn with the ranged ultimate. So this summons these 2 big circles. There's a long warm up, a long warning area, and then a detonate at the end. When it detonates at the end, it takes any enemy gods that are hit, are stunned for a short duration, and then teleported to the other portal. So you can also, why don't you go ahead and banish this Ymir away from me, Pawn, just by himself. Don't hit the other ones. Yeah, just I want him out of here. Be gone.
Be gone.
Okay.
Ooh.
Bye-bye.
So you can use this ability as a way to peel for yourself, or you can use this ability as a way to, put the entire enemy team out of position in some sort of catastrophic way.
Yeah.
That stun is there for the enemy that's a window to cleanse. So you get stunned briefly before you get teleported. If you cleanse that, you will not get teleported. You have to stay stunned up until the time of the teleport to get teleported. So this does pretty moderate amount of damage.
Cool
has that big area, has the teleport. But wait, there's one more feature, as I talked about in the IGN video. After you place this, it then leaves behind a interactable area that you can take and teleport. You could, so anyone on your team can do this. You can do it one time. Everyone can do it one time per fire of the ultimate, and they can go in either direction. So if someone's out of position,
pretty
they can
cool.
use it to take it back, or they can use it to get into the fight as well. So Hecate has a lot of themes with the crossroads, which we kind of and you also see in her theming about her torch and being placed in doorways, and this was used for kind of things like interdimensional travel, and part of her justification for being an underworld goddess, being able to travel to the underworld. So this like we extrapolated a lot of those themes into this super awesome switcheroo teleport ult, which is something that the players have been asking for years. And the visual effects are just gorgeous on us.
The effects are insane.
So cool when people, if you like, there's a lot going on. So there's her triplicate form, also help her. One of each form summons at each portal to help you cast it. If you look down, you see this infinite celestial void into the bottom. When you hit an enemy god, or when you take it, you dissolve. You can actually watch your materials and your model dissolve. And when you go through it, or anyone goes through it, the whole world turns otherworldly and spacey as you travel. You can see the whole skybox turn purple and the world get distorted. That was some of the world distortion we're using in her earlier kit. You now only see while you're actually teleporting here. So
it's pretty neat.
It's incredible.
But, oh my god!
Shout out to the effects team.
It's pretty neat.
Like trying to make an ultimate that was worthy of Smite 2, and we really just pushed and pushed and pushed to get something crazy, and something really strong and powerful and unique and exciting. And I think this really fits this character super well.
Yeah, I'm super
she
excited
is the first Smite 2 exclusive hero. So
Alpha Weekend 3, lots of community feedback that we got.
She'll be the
lots
first
of
one.
Hard work and love went back into revisiting Hecate after her.
Gotta play Smite 2 on a player. She'll never be in Smite 1.
Taking the time to get back into the oven a little bit and cook a little bit to just create something truly amazing as our first all new exclusive Smite 2 goddess.
Yeah, thank you so much to the dev team for taking the time to do these touch-ups and changes to the character. Pon, thanks a lot for guiding through the technical design work.
Yeah, getting the ult working was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had to go through like exactly how we wanted to set it up and what we wanted like the inheritance structure of the deployables to be and how they communicate with each other. There's a lot of really fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, shout out to Unreal Engine 5 and Smite 2, because a lot of this type of reworking a character like this in development while we're working on other stuff would have been very hard to do with a lot of our old tools and old engine. A lot of this, designers were able to prototype. I was able to do a lot of the 1 and the 3 changes on my own without affecting too many other departments. We have designers who are able to spawn those clones and apply materials to them and have them animate and do all that. It's all designer controlled. A lot of effort from the artist and animation team to really make it refined, but we could set up so much.
Right, yeah.
And so, that ultimate we got very roughly prototypically functioning relatively quickly, which is what makes this type of pivot and change and rework so feel possible. Where in older tech, in the older game, it was so much harder to do something like that. Yeah, so
every time they design something for Smite 2, one of the designers is like, by the way, Smite 1 is awful to work with. Every time. Literally every time. They're like, you don't understand. Smite 1 is the devil.
She brings so
every
many
single
aspects
time
to the team that I think she stands out no matter what. So getting the damage and the power level right with a lot of other things shifting will be, that'll be its own challenge, but we're excited to go on that journey with everybody.
There we go. Well, that wraps it up for all the big gameplay changes. We didn't cover everything here, but again, patch notes for Alpha Weekend 3 are live on smite2.com if you want to go check out all the details. Before we close, just a couple of quick announcements. We mentioned it a couple times during the show, but we've got esports happening again for Smite 2 this weekend. So if you're interested in playing in a tournament for Smite 2 over the weekend, be sure to scan that QR code or follow Smite Pro on socials. Join the official Discord to sign up, get your squad together. That tournament is going to be on Saturday, and it's got a prize pool for both the European and North American regions. So find your teams, start your scrims whenever servers go live tomorrow, and get ready for some action on Saturday. It's going to be exciting.
It was surreal that whole weekend just watching games be played in Smite 2.
Yeah.
Like feeling like competitive matches where people are great. Like that was just a very cool experience to actually watch and see how people utilize our systems. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Cool. All right. And then before we go, at the bottom of the patch list, if you haven't gotten there yet, we did list out some of the things that we're thinking about. Oh, AJ, you're the one who wanted me to go over.
I know.
Yeah.
Actually, before we go into that, I did want to call out one other thing that I want people to pay attention for in the Alpha Weekend. We made a pretty significant push on game feel. We talked about it a little bit in that blog post.
Yeah.
One of the major things we did adjust was there was some movement changes and movement adjustments. It was especially felt when you were trying to juke and strafe and like do that really quick turn when Anhur's trying to get that final ult hit on you. You juke and it actually actually like way slow you down significantly than it should have. Be on the lookout for that when you play this week. See how the movement feels, see how things feel overall.
They're trying to say they made it less clunky
because it can be one of those things that's very subtle, but once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. And I think overall people are going to notice that feels a lot better.
And as we segue to this next section of what's coming up, I want to, mention to that point, we're going to continue with these things that Pon just mentioned on getting the movement feel, camera feel, things like that. Those are things we're going to continue. But we have a couple other upcoming spoilers.
Yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the roadmap for not in Alpha Weekend 3 coming out this week, but the updates leading into 24/7 in August. Some of the things that we're working on.
At this point, anything we talk about is not in the current test you're about to play. But these are things we're looking into the future. And we wanted to go ahead and preview some of them early so we can get the discussion started, so we can start getting feedback on it.
Cool. So the first one is kind of off the piggyback of the Blink Rune / Purification beads discussion.
Right.
So that's, of course, a big change in Alpha Weekend 3, but we're thinking about more pre-game active item choices.
Right. We are actively developing, already working on implementing other active items that will be options to
in that slot
instead of beads or Blink. Now, I think some interesting things to think about here are, what are the goals for the system and what are the rules and constraints around it? We want to do this thing differently from Smite 1, and it's not just because of the differences. It's also because the Smite 1 system had a lot of
as long as you're eventually stuck with your choice, I'm fine with
states that we've run
into. I think you
in
have
the
to be stuck with your choice.
The biggest problem really being beads was just an overwhelming winner. Almost picked 99% more than every other relic in the game, with maybe Blink and Aegis close behind, and everything else extremely low below that. And generally always forced on support to go pick up that stuff. So the goal is to really we want to try to design this system in a way that's not relics, and we also wanted to not have it clash with active items. So you get the one active because you already can get more through the item system, so we don't think we need two. And we're trying to keep this pool a little bit smaller pool of options and more powerful. So we really want to make stuff we think is as powerful and exciting and cool to compete with Combat Blink and Beads, which is hard.
And then
we've been trying. We've got a few that we're working on, but that's really the goal. And we don't want to expand this into a massive 14 option thing. The idea is to do only as many as we need to introduce specific powerful effects that actually can compete with those effects.
And I think the other thing is this gives us some flexibility in there are some designs that are just better in this type of world, right? Even the weakest version of the Fun Blink is probably something that if it's an item, it might feel obligated to pick up, where when it's now competing with some more other powerful choices, it now feels like that's a better slot for it than the active item system would be. A lot of other things fall into it's much better for it to be an active item where these are choices that you can pick up, but there are just some effects that being forced into that also can feel weird. So this gives us the two slots that make sense for us. Some designs really fall into this category, while the other designs fall into the active item system.
And now this design also shares a lot of goals with the next thing we're going to talk about on the list.
The next thing we're going to talk about is pre-game passive choices. So we're talking about and discussing and actively brainstorming what does it look like for you to choose
already implementing
a passive before you even hop into the game, right?
So we want to there's a couple goals here. One is just that's the thing we've been getting from feedback is kind of starter items or something to help focus roles a little bit more specifically, or something to give you additional effect. But we didn't want that to just take up an item slot. We think the starter item design is not the ideal way to do this. So we're effectively introducing a sort of 7th item slot here using this effect. And we are planning on implementing this with multiple options to be selected at the beginning of a match through UI for the next alpha. Not the current one, but the next one. So we want to provide combat-oriented effects, not economy. So we didn't really want this to be the place where here's where I get my support assist gold XP thing I have to get every time, because then there's no choice in it. Right? We're intending to put combat-oriented effects that actually have pretty clear role connectivity, but not mandatory. So there will be something that seems better for solo lane or seems better for jungle
until
or seems better for support,
I
but
see
it has outside applications
the actual effects,
as well.
I don't really have an opinion.
Maybe I'm going to invade more
until I see the effects,
you can pick the jungler
and how exactly it's going to be implemented.
And we're trying to make these all very combat focused. They're going to do things actively to help you stay alive or kill other gods, as opposed to slowly generate slightly more gold. If supports need more gold, we'll implement that sometime, somewhere, in some place as we need. We kind of did the jungler solving thing by putting it on the speed buff.
On the buff, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's not going to be the stuff you pick here. We're picking something different here.
Yep.
It won't take up your item slot. It'll be selected at the start of the game. And yeah, we're already actively working on them. We are in progress implementing them right now.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
All right, the next up, we're looking at the God ability text. Doing a pass on that.
Smite has a lot of text.
It does.
It does.
I've
A lot of
tried
text.
to not show some text, but our players think it's important, and I understand that we need to have a place where you can read that text.
Yeah.
We can't get away with Pokemon descriptions where Trick Room just says makes the battlefield funny, and then the wiki page is 10 pages of technical documentation about what the move does, or what the ability does. We have to put that in the game. So there's a lot to do with the short and long descriptions were the big first start. But we want to do more. So we're going to be doing a future pass around clarity and shortening the short descriptions to make them even shorter so you can really get a quick look. What does an ability do? And then if you want to go read the long stuff, that's great.
Yeah.
But the short needs to be short so you can parse it really quickly. We're going to be looking at the color coding, the highlighting, the organization of the whole thing. We've got a lot of the data already in the game that we need. Now we're just, cleaning it up, rearranging it, and we have a lot of UI features too that are going to support it.
Good.
I think we'll talk about some of them as we go.
Loki makes the battlefield sad.
After this, player progression, doing lots of stuff coming up for player progression. We mentioned stuff
player
like
level
the God Mastery
progression,
system,
God Master progression, Ascension rewards.
But a lot more on top of that.
Well, this one is,
cosmetics.
a given, probably a lot of people know, like it's expected, it's coming, but we just wanted to call it out because it's a big venture. And it's really important to the game. So we plan to have all sorts of player progression ready for the 24/7 alpha, right? When you start playing the game all the time, you want to be able to earn mastery.
You got to grind, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like a very fulfilling part of playing Smite. Although a lot of people are in there just for the thrill of combat. But we got to have some more. And there's a lot of cool stuff. And so we're going to have the God Mastery and the Ascension system is really the big thing that we're working on. It's going to have a whole bunch of new rewards, new skin types, some familiar cosmetics, some completely new cosmetics, some really fun and cool art and cosmetics that I can't wait to show you all. And one other quick spoiler teaser feature for this is that we're going to have God level customizations. You can have a completely different set of cosmetics on her than you do on Anubis. Just automatically when you load into the game, it's already pre-saved. You can go configure that outside the game, as opposed to Smite 1, which is everything is account level.
Right.
So if you wanted to fit something that fit your god, fit your skin, you couldn't do that. In Smite 2, you will be
You
able
can
to.
do things more thematically per character.
I know
That's
players
fun.
love just going in and customizing their loadout. So
That's fun.
giving them even more options to do that per character is super sick.
Right.
All right, next up, this is an important one. Player
Really
reporting and moderation. We've got some stuff that you'll probably see some remnants of in Alpha Weekend 3.
I think someone told me they found the report button in Alpha 3.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works yet in that build, but it's in there already.
Yeah. So it's something that we're actively continuing to work on, leading into 24/7.
We have a couple other things behind the scenes I can't quite speak to yet, but we have some new tech on the new engine, and with Rally here to help us with these overall moderation tools. We'll get in a lot more specifics on those. We have more modern methods for detecting cheaters and things like that in the new engine, the new game, and we're ramping up our report systems for punishment systems and things like that. It's all in progress. It's all being.
I'm not actually that worried about somebody cheating.
It's
Smite, you know what I'm saying? But I am,
as we've already seen in the
worried
alpha
about the
build,
guy
people say
that's
that sometimes
left
the
7 games in a row and he is just itching to leave his 8th.
So that we chalk up to some people are having maybe technical issues, or some are they're still figuring things out. But we want to make sure we keep building on this. It's really important to the enjoyment of the game.
Absolutely.
And it's also a large technical effort to push through. So.
All right. Next up, the K screen. We are working on that actively, right?
Right. So when I said we were working on some of the text stuff that would have some UI supporting it, this is what we mean. So working on a K screen. We want to have a place where people can read the entire kit in a really short, clear description. And we also want to be able to use this as a way for console players to level up their abilities. This is a common flow, actually, in Smite 1.
Right.
It's funny because in Smite 1, a lot of people who don't know that console had something like this to level up. They have a different tooltip menu, but they'll essentially use this new K screen to do that. Some people who use that on console in Smite 1 exclusively level up that, and they don't use the other. And the other people don't even know about the other feature. So this is actually really important to a really big group of console players. And one of the other big things we want to do with it is when you look at the screen while you can rank up an ability. So on any platform, or so whether you're PC or not, if you have your points, you don't know which one to spend, you can hit K and you can see we'll have a shortened view for each ability that just says, damage +2.
You didn't even know you had that feature on console. There you go.
That tells you exactly
now you know
what you're going to
level up if you put the point in it.
That's awesome. All right, kind of along the lines of the K screen, because I know Smite 1 players use the screen to do this, but individually changing your ability cast types.
Right, so we're actively working on this. We ask about it a lot. We just want to tell everybody we are working.
It's coming.
On this. One of the things we're thinking about on this too is not putting it in the K screen, putting it in the settings menu. So then you can access it out of game, and you could potentially access all of your gods at once out of game, and you could, or toggle between the different gods and set them all up like in one big go.
Right.
Instead of having to load into the game and come out, but you could still set it in game as well through this. So we are actively working on this too. We're not giving super firm release dates for any of these things, but all these things I'm talking about are planned between the next alpha or the 24/7 alpha. So this stuff is all in progress and coming soon. So I know this one people have been asking for a lot, so it's on the way.
Absolutely. And then the last one we're going to talk about is a big one, ranked in progress. Shooting for 24/7 alpha for our ranked release. I know Max, our resident matchmaking and ranked expert, has been doing a lot of work with ranked. Believe we've got some content with Max over the next couple of weeks where he's going to deep dive into some more changes on the system, but lots of changes for ranked coming.
So we know our players really engage with ranked. It's huge for the content scene, the competitive scene, right? And it's also just for people who want a little more out of each match, a little more stakes, it's really important. So we're prioritizing ranked as very highly. We are not going to plan to release it directly with the 24/7 alpha, because we have to make sure the game is pretty stable 24/7 first. So there'll be it'll probably be the first patch after 24/7 alpha, or potentially sometime in between for some test period or something. But that's where we're actively prioritizing it. We've talked a lot about the ranked and matchmaking changes we aim to do. So you can go back and look at some of that previous content we've done from SWC and before.
So
don't worry if you don't want to go do that. We're going to be coming out with new summaries, new quick looks and deep dives that kind of tell you some of the key features and what we're trying to do with Smite 2. The TLDR of it is, if there's something about Smite 1 ranked that you didn't like, we're trying to make you like it now. We're trying to make the parts that people think are bad are no longer bad. So that is essentially matchmaking issues, party size issues, top end leaderboards, tippy top 10 players type of things, getting capped and things like that. Trying to make changes to the system that remove those problems from the system. There will probably be new, things that we find, but working on that. And with that comes that we're also working on the leaderboards and the pick and ban lobby. So there's a lot to go along with that, but it is actively in development, is planned to come shortly after the 24/7 alpha.
Yeah, for sure. We've got lots of exciting stuff over the next couple months for players to look forward to. But in the near term, Alpha Weekend 3 headed your way tomorrow. Keep an eye out for announcements on our social media and Discord for when servers go live. I believe somebody hid the red button from Travis, so we'll see what time he finds it and pushes it for servers to go live. But we'll be back here, same place tomorrow at 1 p.m. for a Dev Insight show. We're actually going to have executive producer Alex or Killian on the show.
It usually goes live
that people may have regarding things like the 24/7 closed alpha, any of the roadmap details that were released earlier this week. So be sure to tune in and join us for that Dev Insight if you want to hear more from Kilgoon. And until then, we will see you on the battleground. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Later.
For the most part, it seems like they made a lot more progression from Alpha 2 to 3 than they did from Alpha 1 to 2, which is good. Some of the design directions I'm kind of down for. Some I'm more iffy about. Choosing beads or blink is cool for me. More variety is good as long as beads is an option, for characters that especially don't have CC immunity. Faster time to kill in faster games. I've got a feeling I'm going to be like, I wish my games would last a little bit longer, but that is the way that I am, I suppose. I'm a 35 to 45 minute MOBA kind of guy. I guess I'm a classical MOBA enthusiast, compared to 25-minute Battle Royale, Smite matches, but that is, I guess, personal preference. Thanatos looks dope. Morrigan is certainly going to break the game. Haktua looks amazing. Her ultimate's going to be hilarious. But we will be here tomorrow to check out some Smite 2 Alpha. We'll, of course, be streaming that on Thursday and Friday. And then if we reach our sub-goal stuff, then we'll stream on the weekend as well for some more Smite 2. But thank you guys for coming out to the stream today. I appreciate it. If you missed any of the patch note stuff, we'll have that up on YouTube for you later today, so make sure you're subscribed over there. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow afternoon when the servers come up, and as always, folks, have a twitching day, y'all. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support, and have a twitching day, y'all.